was that the interventionist showed up. The person was now surrounded by family and friends criticizing them. On top of that, the family and friends were talking about why they needed the other person to go into detox. None of it had to do with what needs of the suffering person had that would be met. And the only way you can motivate anybody to do anything is by talking about how their needs were going to be met by doing it. So the premise of intervention is one that I don't understand and I don't ascribe to, because I don't find that it really helps. You may have a temporary bump in the number of people going into detox, but they're not working hard when they get there. They're so busy being resentful. They hate you. They hate every member of their family. They hate their friends. What's the point? So that doesn't work. You want to do prehab, where you learn to do motivation.
Not a sense of being ambushed is the way I've watched that show and have thought, ooh, I don't know about this.
Yeah, you're right. That's how they feel. They feel ambushed because they are ambushed, yeah. And they're really resentful, and they will get even. You know, and the way they get even is in a family where no TV show's paying for it, would you like to pay tens of thousands of dollars when the person you love isn't serious about getting well? No. I mean, can you imagine paying for a serious operation? Even if you have health insurance, there's an out-of-pocket cost, only to find out that your loved one took the stitches out and walked away from the hospital. Of course not. You'd be furious. But that's what happens, because there's this mental component of addiction. And if you haven't had an education and really understand it, you're going to be suffering.
That's a high price. Okay, well, moving forward, what does perfect cooperation from a committed family member actually look like?
Ah, what a wonderful question. So if you call me, let's say tomorrow, and you say, this is the situation, you know, Joan is drinking a bottle of vodka every 2 days. I don't know what to do, but whatever you tell me to do, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to sign up for your program. Okay, so that's the first step. You have to sign up for the program. You can pay either with 6 sessions at a time, or you can prepay for 12 sessions. You have to choose one or the other. And there is a tax benefit because the company I founded is a nonprofit. However, when you've now committed yourself, and it is a longer process, it's not just 6 sessions or just 12 sessions for any family I worked with, but you know, this is a way to pay in installments. So then we schedule the appointment, hopefully the very next day, or even that day if it's a crisis, and we get busy on understanding what your loved one is going through, what are the needs that he and she can't meet, that they're using all these dangerous behaviors in order to try to meet those needs. Are they so anxious they're trying to zone out at the end of a workday? Are they so frustrated that they're trying to just forget about it by having a bunch of drinks with friends at a bar every night? There are different reasons why people do things that don't serve them. And sometimes from where we're sitting, it all looks like the same motivator, and it isn't. So the person who goes to the bar, you know, Monday to Friday at the end of the workday and has fun with his coworkers and the people they know, that's a very social person who probably doesn't even realize that his body or her body can't handle all the alcohol. As opposed to somebody who's exhausted and feels miserable at the end of the day, and they crawl into their cave with a bottle of wine or something. And it might even be the same vodka that they're drinking. But the motivation is opposite. And your job, if you want to motivate this person to get clean and sober, you've got to figure out what is in it for him or her. What are they getting out of the drinking, the drugs?
A little detective work, and then you can really focus. And yes, there we go. Now, how important is the support of, let's say, sober living after rehab? Yeah,
it's really important. Every doctor that I've spoken to who has been at any rehab where any of my clients have gone has basically said the same thing. The longer the person can stay in sober living after rehab, the higher the probability that they stay clean and sober forever. Now, that doesn't mean every single one of them has to. Doesn't mean that you're going to keep them there forever. It doesn't mean that you're never going to see your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend. What it means is that if you are as committed to their survival as I hope you are, and Gigi and I hope that you're watching this show and it's very serious and important to you, then you realize that you've got to do everything you can to support that person in getting well and staying well forever. And that's what sober living does. They are forced to get a job, which is huge. They are forced to go to the job, which is huge. They have a community around them that's attending, 12-step meetings, which is huge. They've got a bunch of people in the same house who they can talk to and who can really commiserate with them if it's really hard to stay clean and sober. It works.
That sounds like a bitter life already. Now, what is the ideal length of time for a sober living stay?
Well, it has to be 6 months. Unfortunately, anyone that has ever worked with me, any family that's ever come to me, had someone who has got serious problems. This is not a, weekend drinker who's got a very successful job and they can take it or leave it. Taking it or leaving it is a biochemical issue. So if somebody doesn't have that, I can't, leave it alone problem, then they probably aren't in trouble. Because if it's truly someone who can just not drink, then obviously the next step is great. So Bob, don't drink. Because I've seen some things that have happened to you. I've seen some arguments you've gotten into. I see that, you're just not socializing as much as you did last year. Maybe since you said you can take it or leave it, maybe this is a convenient time, not to drink at all. And since we're together, I'm happy to make the same decision. So that's me finessing to see if this guy really can leave it. Maybe he's just saying he can. We don't know yet.
So is it because someone who has an addiction needs to avoid their family and friends, or is there another reason?
It may have nothing to do with you, or it may have everything to do with you. And, that's on a case-by-case basis. But you're not wrong, and you're not the problem, because if we're having this conversation, you and I, then you are functional, your life is working, you are not going off the deep end. Therefore, even though it may not work for somebody that you love who lives with you, you've been able to steer a course and you're doing well. So we have to not make it about you. We have to make it about the struggling and the suffering of this other person that you love. And if this person is related to you, that's a lot of very valuable information. And if this person isn't related to you, that's even more valuable information, because if you've told me you don't have a problem with addiction, you have a couple of glasses of wine now and then, but it's not a big deal, and this person is related to you, then unfortunately, you can look to other family members and see where the problem resides. Usually, there's some hereditary link. But that doesn't mean that the hereditary link has to be a problem forever. It means that in a very short period of time, you can teach this person, motivate him or her to get clean and sober, stay clean and sober, and over time, their whole brain will change. And when somebody's brain changes like that, it may take supplements, it may take meds, we don't know at this point. When somebody's brain changes, at a certain point, they may still go to meetings. They may still need the support. They may still enjoy the support, but you've got a very different person on your hand. You've got someone on your hand now that you don't have to watch like a hawk every single time you're with them.
And the worries go away.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I know that you've been having great results by letting parents know and also letting those suffering from addiction know about the dynamics of judging and indifference from parents and how it feeds addiction. Can you explain this to us?
Yes, absolutely. It's really amazing that after doing this for 15 years, I was able to put two and two together and see that every time I knew a parent, every time I knew a spouse, every time I knew some part of the family dynamic, it was unquestionably linked to the fact that one of them had a real issue of judging and criticizing the person who had an addiction, and one of them just didn't stick around. One of them just wasn't around. That person was really away, whether they were physically away or they were disconnected, we don't really know. But that's a very, very important point. I mean, you just have to understand that you can make a huge difference. It isn't just that this person who suffers from addiction needs to turn their life around, though that's certainly true. What is also a key component is you can change your behavior. You can make a change that is so effective, so dramatic, that somebody you love can get their life back.
What a joy. Well, I can see we're going to go into a quick clip. I'm not certain of the content, but we'll be right back for some more information.
Motivate and inspire him or her to learn them. Now, the second thing is the 6-part chart. So if you would put that up for us, Fred, again, just for a few minutes, that would be great. Thank you. Now, the 6-part chart is going to teach you how to communicate so that you motivate and inspire the young adult instead of being seen as someone who pushes or threatens or does any kind of judging or demanding. Because we find that the only way that you're going to be able to motivate and inspire someone into detox, then to stay for rehab, then to stay the whole 28 or 30 days, then to go into sober living and stay there for up to 1 year, you're going to have to be able to really motivate them. You're going to have to be seen as a loving parent, not as the enemy, right? So these are two of the many, many skills that I've offered and continue to offer, in addition to some others. But these are the two basics.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it. Information is great. Now, would you please explain to us, can you identify family problems in advance of addiction where there are behaviors that you call a recipe for disaster?
Yes, it's sad and yet almost uplifting that the same patterns were repeated again and again and again. So if one parent is harsh and the other one is passive, so one is judging the child and the other one is fairly silent or even afraid to step in. If one is highly critical and demanding and the other one again is fairly silent and afraid to step in, that is a dynamic that is a recipe for disaster. And another one that is part of this whole dynamic that you need to identify, and if you find it in your own home, I teach you how to transform it, is if you're busy. So at least one parent needs to have the time and the energy and the resources to be able to identify when one of your children has a problem like this, and also be able to learn the skills that I teach and work with me enough so that he or she can motivate and inspire that young adult to safety. So it's a time-constrained problem that's the second recipe for disaster.
Thank you. How encouraging. Now, what can the parents do to avoid this problem quickly?
Well, if you see that, a lot of the work I do is prevention. That's where, of course, I'm thrilled to do prevention. Who wouldn't be? But then I get phone calls from people who are, my daughter, they say, is shooting heroin at her boyfriend's apartment, and I don't know what to do, or, my daughter is, it's winter, but my daughter is living out on the porch at somebody's house in a sleeping bag and a tent, and that's because she's shooting heroin and we threw her out of the house. So these are the kinds of situations that I deal with. The very, very drastic solutions are required because you have a drastic situation. So in that kind of a situation, you've got to immediately return your young adult child to trusting you, which of course, easier said than done. Once you get them to trust you by discontinuing the judgmental communication, discontinuing threats, discontinuing punitive behaviors, then that's the first step to your young adult being willing to trust and listen to you. There's no way that he or she is going to trust and listen to you if you're seen as part of the problem. So that's the beginning. I'm not saying you have to be like that forever, but in the very beginning, you have to really turn the tables and transform your entire style of thinking about him or her and speaking to him or her, and even your body language. If you're saying sweet things, but it looks like you're doing this, it's not going to work.
Very clear. I understand that. That's huge. Thank you, Susan. Well, I'm curious, where does the prison system fit in your Heartspace system?
Well, when I taught at the Merit Program, and my friend James Beard is the one who does the teaching at the Castaic Jail, and the Merit Program has the lowest recidivism rate in the country, a very, very low rate, and their training program is the most successful in prisons, and they train other people as well, but I taught in the Castaic program, and these men and young men who are in jail waiting sentencing are given training 5 days a week, every week for the entire time they're there. So if, heaven forbid, your child is arrested, or if you didn't know what to do and you had your child arrested and your child is in jail, please see what you can do to get your boy, young man, into the Merit Program. There isn't one at the moment, or there wasn't the last time I checked, one for young women. But at least there is this, and it is a remarkable program. So look it up online, check into it, and see about that. However, the training that I give parents eliminates the entire need for this desperate strategy. If you can research detox and rehab that is either paid for by some nonprofit or that is paid for by some church, and you learn from me, or if your insurance covers this, or if you are wealthy enough to pay for rehab and sober living, of course you want to prevent your child from going into jail or prison because of the terrible things that can happen there. And I hope you don't need me to tell you about that.
That's a great place to avoid. Thank you for helpful advice. Now, what has changed since the 1970s war on drugs, and how does this impact patients today?
Well, I remember when Nixon came into power and the war on drugs in the early 70s began to be such a powerful thing, and it was a lot of drama and a lot of police activity and a lot of jail and a lot of prisons. And what happened is all the funding for mental health facilities started to dry up. And all of the things that you parents are dealing with now are the result of the war on drugs, which decided that people should not be treated as if they were ill. They should be treated as if they were criminals. And this is, of course, the tragedy, and this is the pendulum that you at Families Act and all the other organizations around the world like this are working so hard to counterbalance. Because you've got to get to a place where the government supports the understanding that mental illness is, in so many cases, the reason for this drug addiction and for the drug addiction explosion that's going on right now.
Thank you, Susan. And could you explain to us what is happening in Staten Island, New York, that is a huge breakthrough for addiction?
Yes, and I actually want to read this to you because I don't want to miss anything. So if you know where Staten Island is, it's one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. And they have an addiction rate that is 3 times higher than in other parts of New York City. And I just saw this on CNN. I'm sure that if you're seeing this show at...
Except
Well, we hope you enjoyed that. And we hope you found it very supportive in the fact that there are options that are described in this show. You can watch the entire show on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Susan Allan 2001. And you know how to spell my name, Allan.
That was a great clip to put in, a lot of information. Now, I know getting back to concluding things here, it sounds as if the process of prehab actually allows the whole family to transform their lives. Is that what you have found?
That's exactly the point. You figured it out, yes. If there is one person in your family, if there is a partner in your life who you love and who is suffering from addictions, you know by now, I hope, that not only are you affected by this in a terrible, terrible way, but every single member of your family and extended family is affected. So you're the person who's got your act together. You're the person who's not willing to see this whole thing go down the tubes and never be recovered. So it's up to you. And as you make that commitment to turning your relationship around, turning your family around, or turning your life around, then everybody benefits. And, you know, society on the whole benefits too. You know, one more person who's clean and sober instead of suffering from addiction, we all benefit. So you can do this. I know you can do it. I've helped a lot of people do it, and I'm looking forward to helping you do it too.
Wonderful and so inspiring. Well, how about inspiring us with the kind of addictions that respond to your prehab program and the one committed family member learning how to motivate and inspire someone that they love?
All of them, you know, just all the ones you're familiar with. So, of course, alcoholism. This works fantastically. Heroin addiction, cocaine addiction, crystal meth addiction, marijuana addiction, hash addiction, sex addiction, shopping addiction. Rage is an addiction. Depression is an addiction. It may begin as an illness and it becomes an addiction. So there isn't anything that this doesn't transform. Of course, you've got to make sure that it's really an addiction. You can't say, I want my wife to work less or my husband to work less, they're workaholics, and mean it. You know, maybe if somebody has committed to the family and you never see them, maybe then they do have a legitimate addiction. Otherwise, you want to be a little bit careful with that.
I like that, Susan. So I didn't realize all of these addictions are so necessary for people to clean up. I mean, that's huge.
Who wants to be in a relationship with someone who's drinking a lot, taking a lot of drugs, sleeping with lots of different men or women, all of that? It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. So it's not like your wife or your husband's or your girlfriend or boyfriend's going to leave you and there are 12 million other people who can't wait to get with you. No, the truth is that this makes you a person who's got a big sign that says, being in a relationship with me is going to be problems. So if you want to have a great life, and of course underneath everything else you do want to have a great life, then you need help. And the help you need is to have someone who loves you talk to me, or if you're that family member, please talk to me. I offer a free 1-hour phone session.
And I'm curious, with the couple of minutes remaining, Susan, can people have more than one addiction at a time?
Always. Always. That's the terrible part of it, that you may think that you or somebody you love suffers from one addiction. And tragically, there's always one other or more than one other addiction. So it may start out with alcoholism, but then it turns out there's sex addiction. Anything to make you feel better, and lots of sex temporarily makes you feel better. Or it may be that the person is a gambler, so there's a gambling addiction. But in fact, there's so much alcohol and so much sex available in a lot of the places that you can gamble that it's really hard to say no for most people to that. Now, shopping. Well, shopping can just be an addiction by itself, but then usually there's more, because then let's have lots of plastic surgery, let's travel to 5-star hotels, let's have a whole lifestyle upgrade. And if you don't have the money for a lifestyle upgrade, then you've got problems there.
Thank you for explaining that, so we're aware of all the things we can improve on. And now, I know that for any of you that are watching this show, please remember that Susan offers that one complimentary hour telephone session so that you can ask and find out the questions, the answers to really transform your situation and also make a difference in your own family and actually save a life from a family member who is suffering from addiction of some sort. And Susan just loves to get into transforming people so that they can have that lifelong sobriety, saving a lot of money with the family and eliminating all the suffering. So Heartspace Solutions, which Susan created, really teaches people around the world how to have a more intimate and loving relationship that actually lasts a lifetime. And the remarkable part of this is that Susan says that it's never too late. So with that encouraging thought, thank you so much for everything,
But we still have
Susan.
2 more minutes.
Okay, well, we can go forward with that, but I'm really excited that this is such a big deal.
Great. So this is the magazine. I just wanted to show you this, and please send me your questions. I love to answer them. I've been doing this every month for 10 years. But was there something you wanted to ask, or do you want me to just jump in with more information? What would you prefer?
Sure. Go ahead and say anything that would help people to inspire them to
great.
take action.
Okay. So I really think that the biggest problem is hopelessness. And it isn't limited to the person who's drinking or taking drugs or any of the other behaviors. It's the hopelessness that our culture doesn't promote the fact that you can turn this around. You can turn it around quickly. You can turn it around with skills that you're going to need 1,000 other times in your life anyway. If you don't turn it around now, the problems that someone you love is going to have are going to be much more serious. Every year that you don't get somebody off of drugs or alcohol, look what we've learned about cigarettes. Look at all those of us who were addicted to cigarettes, never even realizing we were killing ourselves. And so thank goodness most of us stopped. Most people, you don't see much of it anymore. And medical bills or detox, rehab, getting them back into their lives. That's the choice you have to make. And I really do hope that you go to Heartspace Solutions and you send me an email, and if you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see Heartspace for Sobriety. And it will be eye-opening.
Thank you, Susan. I just really, I know you have such a passion for this. It's really come through.
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome.
Thank you so much, Judy.
And I am encouraging everybody to write into her Santa Barbara Family Life magazine. That is a really cool article every time you're on there. I love reading it. And also check out Susan's website, the www.heartspacesolutions.com, and Susan Allan .org, and that phone call number 805-695-8405, and that's one free hour. Susan's youtube.com/Susan Allan 2001.